Troy, welcome to the Real Journey podcast.
Right on, man. I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming and excited to be here.
I'm super pumped to hear your story because you have the spinal cord injury, so you're paralyzed from the waist down, right?
About the belly button. Yeah. So
belly-
just above the waist, belly button area.
And, we used to work at the grocery store together, and so, I've never known you before your injury, but the last couple years I've seen your progression and what you're doing for the community and your mindset and everything else. And I'm like, man, I got to get you on the show because mindset's everything, dude. Would you agree?
100%. It's all about mindset. And my spinal cord injury, happened a while ago, but it's always been a mindset of mine, even since I was young.
Just that positive mindset. And so what are you doing right now? Because you're helping people that are just coming to or just had injuries, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's correct. So in August 2015, we became a 501c3 charity.
Okay.
Started Spinal Cord Injury Active Network with the goal of trying to encourage and use my network to help others, going through such a traumatic experience. And not just the survivor themselves, but also the family. So what we do is we connect spinal cord injury survivors and their families through peer mentoring. A lot of times in the early stages at rehab. And then also we encourage and empower a active lifestyle towards mobility, independence, and quality of life.
Okay. And that really helps people. I would assume that helps people tremendously.
Yeah, for sure. Because, we don't learn about this in school, right? So you don't learn how spinal cord injury even works or spinal cord injury is, We don't, for the most part, don't know what the how it works, your spinal column and everything else and the nerves and everything that comes off of it. And, spinal cord injuries could happen to anyone. We work with people as young as 5, as our youngest, and into their 70s and 80s as well. So it's a very wide range of people and very diverse group. And it does, people often say, it doesn't discriminate. It could happen to anyone.
And is it local or national? How big is it?
So, yeah, we're pretty local. We're in Northern California region. We cover from San Jose to Sacramento and anywhere in between, from the rehab centers as well as through community. We host events, and our biggest program is the Share a Chair program, which we take donated lightweight manual wheelchairs. We refurbish them, and then we loan those out to those when they're discharging the rehab center. So they get increased lightweight wheelchairs from the beginning for the increased mobility and independence, which is key, because again, it breeds confidence, and with that confidence, it allows people to really achieve and overcome adversity.
And you're talking lightweight, like yours is right now, where you can get it in and out of the car versus one of the ones you'd imagine somebody older having with the rest and that. Okay.
Exactly. So again, a standard wheelchair that you're going to usually get sent home with, even after a spinal cord injury, the wheels don't come off, the back doesn't fold down, it just collapses in half. And with our chairs are all pretty lightweight, between 20 and 30 pounds total. And the wheels come off, the backrest folds down, so it's very compact. It's easy to maneuver around the house, bathroom, kitchens, bedrooms, stuff like that are rarely thought of with the big heavy-duty standard chairs. And then also, getting into public, right? Like, we want people to reintegrate into society.
Yeah.
And doing that, you have a nice looking chair, we call it the Ferrari of the chairs. And it just brings confidence for people to go out in the public, go to restaurants, go to the movies or whatnot, because essentially that's what we want. We want people to live in their life and active again. And, that helps. And again, too, it's easy to transport because it folds down and is really compact.
And, why did you start it? Was there something that you had when this happened to you, or there was nothing and you saw a hole in the market, or what made you start this?
Yeah. So, it really dates back to my injury in 2003.
Okay.
It was two months before I graduated high school. I was injured in a motocross accident, and, it was tough for me because I was in the hospital. I didn't know if I was going to finish school. I was a senior in high school at Hogan High, and it was literally 2 months before the graduation day. So I missed out on grad night. I missed out on prom. I missed out on all these senior things the last part of the year. And
all the fun stuff.
all the fun stuff that
Right.
we work for too, like, senioritis and all these other things. And,
dude.
and we're ready to go, and we're there. And it was actually spring break when I was injured. It was a late spring break that year, and it was actually Easter morning when I was injured.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I was actually scheduled to work that afternoon at a grocery store, and had a big race coming up the following weekend. So I was going to get some laps in. We had just rebuilt my top end on my CR 125, and had broken it in good, and everything was good. And unfortunately there was a motor malfunction, and over about a 60-foot tabletop double, and it nearly rode the front wheel down. And just because, the track conditions that morning was pretty loamy, it was still pretty wet.
Okay.
And it went down into a little dip, and then up to the next lip for the next jump. I rode it down, and then kind of just scorpioned it in the ground. And when the bike came over, it brought my legs over with it. And my chest protector is actually what fractured my T9, T10 vertebrae and broke some ribs. So, yeah, it was tough. And I knew instantly that something was really wrong. I have family friends that were paralyzed prior to, my injury that I've known.
On dirt bikes, right?
No.
Okay.
These two weren't. One was a street bike, back in the 80s.
Okay.
It was my cousin's uncle, as well as a good friend of mine down the street. He was paralyzed in a car accident, Will. And, I've always known, him being in a wheelchair, growing up and whatnot. I didn't realize or know what spinal cord injury or paralysis was.
Yeah.
But I knew laying there on the track that something was severely wrong, and I was in quite a bit of pain.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the back; it was the ribs. Broken ribs were pretty painful as I was laying on my chest and torso area, and it, unfortunately spitting up blood and everything else. But it, I knew right away that something wasn't right. Luckily, my dad was there. He's seen the things happen. My brother was actually on the track as well. He circled around and unfortunately had to see that as well. I can imagine what goes through a 15-year-old's, mind when he sees his brother laying there like that. But
or a parent,
or my dad as well. He
Yeah.
got there and he understood right away, like something was wrong as well. This happened in Livermore at Club Moto, right off the freeway there at 580. And then what they did, they came in, they put me in an ambulance, took me down the corner, and then airbagged me.
At this time, could you not move your legs?
Yeah, instantly had no feeling or movement in my legs. I knew right away, like I said, my legs were kind of all over the place, so to speak, and my back. But like I said, the ribs and the spitting up blood and everything else, that was what was worse. And I was coherent through the whole thing. So,
And were you thinking you had an internal injury, or what was going through your mind? Were you like, damn, I can't move my legs? At that point, were you thinking you were paralyzed, or like, damn, I'm gonna have to?
yeah, to be honest, it's hard to say because it was like, so much happening so fast.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was severe. I didn't know if it was life threatening or whatever else. I just knew, like, wow, like something's wrong. And I was coherent through the whole thing. They got me to the helicopter, and was air vacuuming me to Mount Eden in Castro Valley, and pumping me full of steroids and everything else. So by the time I got to the ER, the trauma unit there at Castro Valley, that they, I was out of it, by that point. I remember going in there and it was a big fish tank, and I remember that part, and then I don't remember the next day or two after that. So
you just basically woke up in the hospital bed?
yeah, for sure. And the next thing I really remember was getting transported the next day to Oakland Kaiser to have surgery. So
Okay.
And that was probably close to about 36 hours later, so that 36 hours of, the first few minutes after my injury, or say 20 minutes or 30 minutes till I got to the hospital. And then once I got to the hospital, I don't remember much till that bumpy ass ride in the ambulance all the way to Oakland. And there was a lot of words to the driver, unfortunately. And I apologize to him because it's like, hey, it's not your fault. The streets and the roadways are not too smooth for us.
Kept.
Yeah.
And so were you still in pain because of your ribs, or was your back and leg, like, where were you hurting at that? Were you?
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely the back at that point too.
Okay, so you could feel it at
the
that
ribs, the breathing, everything hurt. Every bump hurt with broken ribs, and then obviously the fractures in my spine, ruptured my spinal cord, and then went into Oakland Kaiser, and then they got me into about a 7-hour surgery that night. So really didn't have surgery till almost to 48 hours after my injury.
Okay.
And that could be, part of the reason why, I was not able to recover much, because it had been that kind of extended period of time before they were able to, relieve that spinal cord. So,
and so with that, was it like it severed the nerves, or what is the spinal cord injury? Like, what was yours?
So there's many different ways,
What
right?
was yours?
It could be pierced, different things. So my T9, T10 actually ruptured my spinal cord.
Okay.
So it was just the corner of it kind of got damaged.
Okay.
And, that's what it was. And I think that was pretty much from, I shattered one rib really bad that they actually removed. So really I have 2 rods going down the vertebrae, from the T8 to L1. So those 6 vertebrae, they fuse those with rods, and then 11 screws. There's just one rib that doesn't even have, one vertebrae that doesn't have nothing to screw into, right? And then they took a bone graft off my hip and then filled that into the vertebrae, and that's what they fused it with, So, and I still to this day have the rods and hardware in my back. It's painful in the wintertime, that's for sure.
I bet, bro. I bet. And so you get out of the surgery. When did they tell you, like, this is bad?
Yeah, I mean, I remember waking up after surgery, about the second day after the injury.
Okay.
In Oakland, and they actually had me sitting up, which is weird. I thought like, whoa, okay, I'm woke up and I'm sitting in this little chair now, and then they started telling me and educating me somewhat what the spinal cord was and how it worked and what happened, and kind of the statistics and whatnot of if you're going to walk again and what kind of injury I had, right? So it's considered a T9 complete injury, Asia A, which means I have no function, no sensation below. So what they're going to do is they're going to do a pinprick test on my whole body, and then they're going to see if I feel it, right? And that's what they did, and I was like, no, I can't feel this, no, I can't feel that.
They start
right?
with the feet?
No, actually, they start at the hands. So they start with the C1 level, and then they go all the way down to determine how much you have full sensation.
Okay.
And then at that level is where they determine like where your level of paralysis is, which mine is just above the belly button.
So you have no feeling belly button down?
Correct. Yeah, no feeling, no function, no hot and cold, no nothing besides, I mean, I got nerve pain, burning sensation, stuff like that people don't understand.
Is that forever, like ongoing? Like right now you always have it? And you kind
of Yeah, for sure. And again too, a lot of it goes back to mindset, right? Like I have it, I feel it, I know it. If I focus on it, it gets really bad. And a lot of people have probably worse than I do.
Yeah.
But what it is it's a mindset thing. I put it behind it. Hey, you know what? I live with it. I deal with it. It's okay. You know what? I put everything else in front of that.
Yeah.
And that just takes my focus off of it.
And so how long were you in the hospital until you got to go home?
So I did one whole week in ICU after surgery in Oakland, and then I got sent to Vallejo, which is my hometown, and they have a world-renowned rehab center for spinal cord injury, stroke, and brain injury. So it just fit right in, and I did 4 weeks there. So I got discharged at the end of May. I think like the 27th. I was in a wedding like that weekend, and then I graduated 2 weeks later. So it was a busy time and adjustment, and again, it's nice when you're in rehab because you have the nurses, the doctors, the OTs, the PTs, all these other, health professionals helping you, getting you on a routine and stuff. But when you go home, it's pretty much all on you.
That's what I was going to say. How was your first couple days and nights? How was that like?
Yeah, it was tough.
Do you remember them like they were yesterday, or is that something?
Yeah. No, I remember a lot of it. Luckily, I got to stay home one night prior to getting discharged from the rehab center.
Okay.
So that was kind of an eye-opening thing because there was a lot of things that we needed to change. I needed to open up the door in the bathroom. We needed to do a lot of different things just for me to get around the house comfortably.
Yeah.
Because I mean, these are things that I'm going to need throughout the day, all day long.
Yeah.
So being able to do that and make the house somewhat comfortable and inviting to me, luckily everything else was pretty much wheelchair accessible.
Yeah.
And pretty much like just trying to find out how to sleep, because in the hospital you don't sleep. You know, you got all these sounds going on. You got
Yeah.
nurses coming in every hour or two, so it's just tough. You know, and again too, the biggest part about it is just learning everything over. And it sounds crazy, but learning how to sleep is part of it, because being paralyzed, we have to know about skin breakdown, right? So we need to know, you know, that's the term, bed sores, right? And
Yes.
that could happen pretty quickly. You know, within an hour or two, possibly, if you're on a surface that is not good for your skin, you know, and
No
it's
kidding.
bone premise, and it's gonna, you know, create a skin issue, skin breakdown. So just learning that everything over again, you know, how to sleep, how to rotate, how to, you know, because you learn how to turn in the hospital every 2 hours. It's hard to do that when you're at home and you don't got a nurse coming in to do it, and you're focusing on trying to get some rest, you know?
And it's I take it for granted. Like, I think of myself sleeping at night and how many times I roll and I have my body pillow and how I'm able to just throw my leg over that and reposition to get comfortable. And
Yeah.
yeah, you're having to learn how to sleep over something as that we take for granted. You know, like for me, for instance, as I'm analyzing this, going, man, I just go to sleep, right? And just having to relearn how to do that. Like, what was the hardest transition for you?
Pretty much bowel and bladder. That was the
Okay.
toughest thing. At 17, you know, I was a 17-year-old teenager, you know, and trying to learn how to pee and use the restroom again.
Okay.
That was the toughest part, you know.
Because you had no feeling.
Yeah, no feeling. So, you know, to empty my bladder, I got to use a catheter.
Okay.
And, you know, that was one thing that I was like, this is not going to happen. You know, the first week I was in rehab.
Okay.
And luckily I had a somewhat younger guy as an OT.
Okay.
And he came in and he explained to me, hey, you know what, if your focus and goal is to be as independent as possible, you're going to have to do this on your own. You're not going to have to rely on somebody else to do this every 4 to 6 hours when you have to empty your bladder. And that kind of hit, right? Because my whole thing was, and that's who I am as a person, is growing up as a kid, and everything else is being independent. So that kind of hit home, and I was like, hey, you know what? I could handle this on my own.
Okay.
As a mental block I had for the first few times of, you know, this should not be the way it has to happen. But I adapted, and I quickly just said, hey, you know what? This is how it's going to be for now, and who knows what the future holds.
Do you still have a catheter and you still have to?
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
still to this day? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
still use a catheter to empty my bladder every, you know, say 4 to 6 hours throughout the day and night and everything else. But now it's just routine and it's second nature, and you know, it's the way it has to go, right? We adapt and we live life.
again, and you know, I look at, you know, just following you on social media and stuff and how positive, and just here talking with you, I'm like, damn, that, you know. And so was there a point where you went through and it was like where it hit home? And did depression ever?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say really depression hit.
Okay.
There's tough days,
Okay.
no doubt. You know, at 17, there's a lot of questions, you know, that I went through of like, hey, you know, what am I going to be able to, you know, have sex? Am I going to be able to have a family? Am I going to be able to go back to work and drive and all these other things? And like I said before, like I've known two pretty close friends, family friends that are paralyzed.
Yeah.
I knew that they drove. I knew that they worked. I've known this, right?
Yeah.
But when it happens to you, you're like, wow, am I going to be able to accomplish this? Am I going to be able to do these things and
For
whatnot?
sure.
So for me, there was depression. There was some days that were tough. I wouldn't say it was like a long spiral
Yeah.
or anything like, you know, a lot of people that we do, that we work with.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's like, for me, it was a mindset of like, hey, you know what? I'm okay. I'm going to adapt to these things. I'm going to face these challenges. I'm going to persevere, you know, and that's how I've always been. And I think it goes back to just a competitive mindset of being an athlete all my life. Of I take everything. I'm competitive. I want to challenge myself as well as anything around me.
Yeah.
To do as best as we can.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I've always approached it.
Which parent did you get that from?
You know what? I think it kind of goes to both.
Does it? Because I know your mom's competitive because I worked with your mom, so I know she's super competitive.
Yeah, my mom is competitive. My dad's competitive. He likes to get things done and do it right.
Yeah.
and make sure things are right. But both of them, I mean, they both persevered all their life. My mom lost both parents by the time she was 17 and graduating high school. One at 15 and one at 17.
Wow.
And my dad had a kind of tough upbringing as well. His father left and didn't really have a father figure early on growing up as well. And they persevered, right? And they fought and they battled and they challenged themselves to be able to overcome those adversities and challenges that were put in front of them. And I, like I said, I couldn't imagine losing my parents by 17. I went through a traumatic injury at 17 and luckily I had both parents there to support and every day since. So
I can't imagine losing my parents at 35, let alone, you know what I mean? Like,
you're not lying. I'm 35 as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I couldn't imagine to this day. I'm grateful to have them and don't really have much extended family outside of that, but our close immediate family is really tight and supportive and grateful.
That's awesome. And did they give you like pain medication when you got out of the hospital and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I was on pain medication. You might see me twitching here every now and then. That's just back spasms.
Okay.
I was on spasm medication as well. Anxiety medication, of course, trying to calm myself down, through the situations or going back into public and stuff. Like it's tough,
sure.
right? It's a different thing. A lot of people are looking at you. So I was on quite a few medications, but luckily for the last, say, 12 years or so, I haven't taken any prescription medication as far as pain meds or spasm medication or anything for at least 12 years or so.
Because that's a slippery slope with people too, right? They get on the pain meds and like that can lead to depression in itself.
100%, and then you're actually fighting a battle because it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you're taking these things to help cope or help with this pain management and everything else. But then there's also side effects of depression and some other side effects as well that may impact our bodies. And then you're taking these other medications and then you're ended up taking a cocktail every day. And it's like, what's that doing to our bodies,
Yeah.
right? And for me, I learned a long time ago, and like I said, I got an athletic background. I was athletic all my life and raced and played baseball and football and all that all my life. So I've always been the athletic type.
Yeah.
And knowing, hey, you know what? I need to take care of my body.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to perform and compete at a high level, I need to take care of what my body's doing.
For sure.
And control what's going in and out of my body. And to this day, like I focus severely, really heavy on, diet, nutrition, weightlifting, all these different things that I know that are going to impact me and help me.
Yeah, you put on some muscle in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And again, like I competed at a high level, elite wheelchair basketball in 2017.
Yeah.
For the Sacramento Rolling Kings, we finished 4th in the nation.
No kidding.
It was a great accomplishment, and it was tough, but to be at that level and stuff like that, it takes a lot out of you. It's essentially you're competing at a professional level against Paralympians from all the different countries, and it's a full-time job, but we just don't get paid for it. So It's tough. It was challenging, but again, like I said, go back to my body is, hey, you know what? It's so important to focus on our body. I have a spinal cord injury. I use a wheelchair, but you know what? My organs and everything else are sound and intact. I need to take care of those for as long as possible, including my skin, of course.
And when did you transition into work?
So actually, you know what? Of course, I was working.
You were working at Lucky's. You were saying that. Were you working at Lucky's when this happened?
Correct. Yeah. So I was
okay.
in high school. I was in work experience. I was still working 40 hours a week as a senior in high school. So
Okay.
I was bringing in the bread, so to speak, at 17. Loving it here in Fairfield, working at Lucky's or Albertsons at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
So after my injury, right, I had a shell that was covering my whole torso. And that was to protect the spine and the fusion.
Okay.
I had to wear that for 3 months.
Okay.
So
like a cast.
Yeah, it was a turtle shell, so to speak. But
Okay.
yeah, like a cast to protect any twisting and movement or any damage that could happen to my spine.
Okay.
Like I said, they did a 10, 12 inch section there with rods and infusion of bone and stuff. So once that was off at the 3 month mark, I was able to go back to Kaiser Vallejo, luckily, as an outpatient, not have to go stay there. So I could still enjoy food at home and my bed at home and family and everything else in the afternoons. But I went back to outpatient rehab and started building on my strength.
Okay.
You know, so again, my core was, I got very limited core, maybe like the first 2 abs. So they call me 2-pack sometimes. And, you know, but again, it helps because, I'm able to keep posture and everything else. So I'm grateful for that little bit of core that I do have, and even in my back and everything else. But I had to build that. You know, it took a long time because I was like a noodle, really, because I was stuck in this cast for 3 months. If you broke any bone in your life before, you understand. If you have a cast on, the atrophy and the muscle is like, you got to rebuild everything. So that was like my whole core that I kind of had to rebuild and kind of find out what that middle ground was of being paralyzed plus, you know, having a little bit of core and getting that fine tuned to feeling comfortable.
Damn. So were you bedridden while you had that turtle shell on?
No.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I just had to wear it when I was in the chair.
Okay.
So I got to sleep without it and stuff like that, very cautiously, you know, when you're turning in bed and stuff, because obviously it's going to take some time for those bones to heal, and they didn't want to impact anything there. But for the most part, it was just anytime I was upright and in my wheelchair or in a chair or anything else, I had to keep it on. You know, for the 3 months, obviously it was like at the beginning of summer, so it was miserable to wear and hot, and you know, it just wasn't comfortable. But once that came off, like I said, I went back to getting worked out and independent as possible and building as much strength as I can. I bought a vehicle at the end of that year I was injured, so about 7 months after I discharged from rehab.
Okay.
I bought a Silverado pickup truck and got it hand controls installed right away. And began driving and enrolled at Napa Valley College, 8 months after my injury. So I was on the go, man. And that's how I always did.
Yeah.
You know, I had goals of racing motorcycles and seeing where that took me. And obviously that happened and changed on that Easter morning. But I quickly shifted my mind of, hey, what's the next best step? And to me, it was, hey, let me go to junior college, refine myself, see what, you know, may I find something new or whatnot. But for me, it was just building that confidence of getting back to a routine, a schedule, and being around others and people
doing
in public.
Something normal, right?
100%. Yeah. So everybody always says, hey, I want to go back to normal or normalcy and this and that.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just pretty much just reintegrating back into, you know, a daily routine and everything, you know?
Okay.
So I went back to the JC, started, and shortly after that, when I was driving and everything else, I actually got reached out to by Albertsons as I was still an employee.
Okay.
And I hadn't known that, didn't really think about it, and so we started the evaluation process of me coming back to work already.
Okay.
You know, so I actually that was quite of a process for them to hey, you know what, as a wheelchair user, as a courtesy clerk, what is he able to do safely and all these other things, and of course they were really, you know, skeptical and liable on many aspects of things that, you know, could happen, but I'm grateful that things went through and I started work, you know, October the following year. So about exactly a year and a half after injury, I was back to work and going to school. So
full time, man. And so when you were discharged, did they just discharge you with a regular chair, or did you get a different chair?
No. So again, too, that's a huge part of who I am today.
Yeah.
I was discharged in a standard wheelchair.
Okay.
And actually had to graduate in that wheelchair. And that was tough. That was one of the toughest things and the earliest things that I remember after injury was having to get pushed up the ramp and then down the ramp to get my diploma.
Okay.
So yeah, I did graduate. That was a challenge as well, just because when I'm going through rehab 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and you know I do have government English class still as a senior. That was only 2 classes I really needed to pass to graduate. And they're sending packs of work to the rehab center. So they take it to the office, and the office brings it out to me weekly. And I'm like, you know what? I'm learning how to go to the bathroom again.
Yeah.
I could care less about your little packet.
Yeah.
Like I'm going through all this intense rehab, and you guys are sending me these packets with 4 to 6 weeks left of school. Fuck off. Like whatever.
100%.
If you guys want to fail me because of this, like, hey, I'm just trying to learn how to do my daily tasks every day. But again, going back to that, when I graduated, that's always stuck with me. You graduate high school one time in life, and,
For sure.
and that's how I have to remember of getting assisted up the ramp and down the ramp to collect my diploma. Man, that was tough. And me being independent and prideful, I wanted to try and do it on my own. It just, that heavy wheelchair, my strength wasn't even there to be able to get it.
If you had the chair you have now, would you have been able to do it even with the lack of strength?
Yeah, I most likely probably would have. If I would have had some time in a lightweight chair, I'm definitely sure I would have been able to do it on my own, and that would have changed. So again, too, that's kind of always stuck with me.
So that's like your why in a sense, almost.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the main reasons why I did the Share a Chair program and started that, because that's always stuck with me, and that's always been a tough thing, and it's been a barrier for many other people as well after they leave the rehab to get back and do what they were doing, and for me it was graduating. Like, that was the next big step and step, so to speak, right? That was the next big thing in front of me was to graduate high school, right? And that's how I had to remember it for the rest of my life. And now it's like, hey, you know what? If I could be able to offer somebody some independence and mobility in a high mobility chair that could really uplift them and bring their confidence to a higher level to be able to achieve some things and not have to go through like what I did.
Man, that's awesome. And so once you got back to work, how'd that go? Because you're going to school full time.
At that time in October, I was started my second semester full time, and kind of just going with it. General ed stuff, not knowing what I was going to do, but I knew, hey, you know what? If I don't do nothing, time's going to pass me by, right?
What is it, idle hands or the devil's hands or something like that?
Exactly. And to be honest, I've never been that way. I've always been on the go and independent and just moving. And so it translated right over to after my injury. And like I said, that mindset that I've always had all my life, relates, to different aspects of my recovery. And like I said, part of it was, hey, you know what? I challenged myself to go back to school. And I would say I'm pretty intelligent.
Yeah.
I didn't care for school too much. But it came pretty easy to me.
Yeah.
And so going to college and everything else, it was unique, because it wasn't the schooling that was a challenge. It was just trying to feel comfortable and fit in, being in a wheelchair and having to get up in front of class and everything else. But again, I think that just helped me to become of who I am today, and being able to, love to speak to people and share my story and journey with people as well.
The character building and just like putting yourself out, confidence building almost more than the educational piece. It was like building your confidence again. Okay, I can get out here. I can do this. I got this.
100%. And you're right. And that's what it came from. It's just interacting with people.
Yeah.
And women and girls at that time as well, just feeling that confidence of, what, I still can, impress or interact with women, because at 17, 18 years old, that was tough, right? I'm thinking, hey, am I ever going to be able to do this or that and have a girlfriend or have a family and everything? So that came pretty easy, and it may, obviously skyrocketed my confidence and going back to work, like you said, I was part-time for about the first 6 months or so at the end of 2004, beginning of 2005, and then actually ended up getting promoted to, the personnel coordinator in 2005.
Okay.
And then that was a full-time gig. So I was working full-time, doing, 15 plus units at the college still. And that was good, and for me, I wouldn't change anything about that.
Did you graduate? College?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I actually stopped college in DVC about 2007.
Okay.
At that time, I was it was 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. I was going to school full time, working full time, non-union personnel coordinator and whatnot with the grocery business. And then had some applications and resumes out, for different jobs, looking elsewhere. And at this time I was maybe 22 or so, and was looking for a career.
For sure.
I didn't want to be in a retail business forever. My mom's done that for 40 plus years, and obviously I've met great people like yourself and many others.
Yeah.
And I've seen others starting to leave and venture out and do different things and be happy. And that's something my goal was. It's like, hey, you know what, I'm making great money, I'm working Monday through Friday, all this stuff is great, but you know what, I'm missing something, right? So I actually ended up going in insurance, and I was an insurance agent for about 4 years as well.
Okay.
But during that time, I had a couple of health things that I had to take care of, skin breakdowns, that actually came from a pop cushions, believe it or not. And I couldn't do nothing about it. I had a pressure sore on my bottom. I was still going to school. I was, studying to take my state boards test for all my insurance licensing, and I was still working full time at the retail business, at Albertsons at the time, and it was tough, right? I was like, I got this.
It was a process. I remember that.
Yeah, for sure, and it was tough because it's like, okay, I got this pressure sore on my bottom, on my right butt cheek, and it was like, hey, you know what? It's not getting worse. It will heal over time. This and that, right? And I go to the doctors, and they were like, oh, well, it looks okay, it's healthy and stuff, and it'll probably heal, but you got to try and stay off of it. And I'm like, well, I can't stay off of it,
right?
I was doing probably 16 to 18 hours a day in my chair, from going to work from 4 a.m. till 1 o'clock, go home, change, go to school from 2:30 to about 7:30, and then go to the insurance from 7:30 to 10:30 every night. And what it did, it taught me that health is wealth.
Yes.
If my body's not healthy, and if I'm not listening to my body, it doesn't matter what else is out there.
Yeah.
Because if I can't do that and do it healthy and safely, it doesn't matter. So again, too, that led to a lot of different things, and it ended up being a surgery. I had a flap surgery, which they take part of my lower thigh, and they debride the wound, and then they bring that and some muscle, some skin and muscle up around my butt cheek, and that was tough. That was probably one of the most challenging things that I ever dealt with.
That was tough because I remember that. And then when I was saying like depression, it's because that was like the hardest that I remember, because I remember the first time I ever saw you. I remember hearing your mom, oh yeah, my son works at the store in Vallejo, and
yeah,
I went to that store to help out do something.
Yeah, I remember that day.
And then people were like, oh yeah, Troy, he's cruising, you'll see him fly by here somewhere. And I remember in the corner of my eye seeing you just fly by in your chair, and I was like, oh damn, that dude is ripping in his chair. I'm like, he gets around.
Absolutely, man. All push, no brakes, man. That's how we live.
Yeah, and I was like, and then we met each other, and I'm like, dude, this is a cool ass dude. And so, but I remember because we didn't work directly together. I worked with your mom for many years directly.
Absolutely.
And I remember that process and her, talking about it and everything else, and just so many things you never think of, right? You think, oh, paralyzed. I wouldn't think of, I got sores that you have to take care of. And, so there's just so many facets to the whole situation. So how long was that? That was like a 6-month process, right?
Yeah, at least. For me, it was the hardest because I was active, right? I was doing a lot of things, right? And it happened to be, one day I was at therapy, sat down with my walking braces, and actually popped my air cushion. Didn't know it, went back to work. I went on lunch hour to therapy, and then came back and went to work for a couple hours. And, I noticed my back was hurting. I was like, man, something's up.
Okay.
Not knowing, busy working all day, the rest of the afternoon, went back home to change to get ready to go to school. And I realized that I had a part of my cushion. So what it is it's 4 quadrants.
Okay.
So there's air, 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 and you can control each one. So this quadrant popped. So my right butt cheek was sitting on pretty much the seat pan for about 3 hours.
Okay.
Not knowing, still doing my pressure release, no problem, stuff like that. But just in that short period of time of sitting on something without much cushion and padding, it created a skin breakdown, and it broke down, and I had an open wound on my bottom that afternoon. So that was tough.
So just that fast.
That fast. And again, too, like I said, it happens to a lot of people. Like I said, it's considered pressure sores or bed sores, people call them.
Yeah.
Because it does happen in bed, right? A lot of people who aren't moving and don't have great circulation, and all spinal cord injuries don't have great circulation. And that's what creates the bony premises to break down, the skin. And like for me, I said I was active. I was doing busy work and busy schedule. But again, too, it put in perspective, hey, you know what? I got to listen to my body. I got to take care of my body. I got to focus. I got to put all focus on my body and my health.
Yeah.
So I tried to heal it. Like I said before, it was a long process because I was busy with 2 jobs or one full-time job, full-time school, and creating a new career.
Yeah.
And it was tough, but it was a decision I had to make to have the surgery finally after about, I don't know, maybe 8 months to a year that I tried to battle this open wound. And many people go a lot longer than that. But I finally made this decision that, hey, I got to take care of this.
Okay.
I did the flap surgery, and then after that, it's pretty much 3 months bed rest, complete bed rest, not doing much. The first six to 8 weeks is completely flat, so no elevation in the bed or nothing. There's a lot of going on with the after surgery. I was supposed to go to a skilled nursing home, in Vallejo, and they tried to send me, down to the South Bay, and I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to go for 8 weeks down to the South Bay and not have any visitors, family support, nothing. There's no way I could do that. So we ended up doing it at my house.
Yeah.
We discharged me to my house. And then my mom actually took off, I think, like 12 weeks of FMLA to take care of me for that 3 months, because essentially, like I said, I couldn't get out of bed for anything. And that was tough. Mentally, it was very, very tough to be bed rest and pretty much locked in to a bed for 3 months straight.
Do you think that lesson, though, was a valuable lesson at that time?
Absolutely. I look back to that day still, and I use that and my knowledge and experience from that to help so many others within our network and kind of scare them straight, so to speak, about their skin and protecting their skin and being aware of everything, right?
Yeah.
Of everything we sit on, and again, too, for me, it falls into my overall health.
Yeah.
And that's my number one focus in life is my overall health, because I know if I'm healthy, I'm able to do so much and help so many other people. But if I'm not healthy, all that really is put aside, and I'm struggling with myself.
And then you get bedridden.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're not able to do anything, right? So it was a tough time. Unfortunately, I ended up having to have another one. During that first initial recovery, and after that flap surgery, there was an underlying issue on my, it's called a IT, which is your butt bone, on the bottom right butt bone. I had a bone spur on it. So I didn't know it, of course. I didn't feel it, nothing else. But there was an issue, 6 months after my first initial flap surgery that created, another boil under there. And then I had to have an open wound again.
Oh.
So as soon as I get back to going and the surgery and everything was said to be fine, this and that, stitches and everything else dissolved fine, everything was good. Started back to work part-time at Albertsons, as well as part-time insurance, just trying to get my feet wet and get back to working again and on a routine and not too much, and kind of finding that safe point of, hey, you know what, this is enough for the day or whatnot. I get knocked down again. And I battle this pressure sore for a while as well, because at this time it's like, hey, you know what? I can't have too many flap surgeries because that's just going to weaken all my skin anyway.
Yes.
Let's try and heal this and this and that, right? Same thing. Went through that process again with the doctors, the wound clinic, and everything else on a consistent basis for over a year at this time. And but again, too, I wasn't staying off of it, right? Because I was active, you know, and again, who knows, the first time if it could have healed if I would have stayed off of it 100%. But like I said, I was working.
You had a life to live.
I was, man. I was young. I was in my early 20s at the time, and it was tough.
Yeah.
And it's like, how am I going to be able to just go bed rest for 6 months or 6 weeks, so to speak, and quit my job or be away from my job, be away from school, all these other things that I had in line. And again, I had goals. I wanted to meet deadlines that I had set for myself. And again, that was a perspective and an eye-opening experience that was like, hey, you know what, have goals, don't worry about timelines, and you know what, take care of your health, number one.
What do you think about taking out timelines with goals?
I like to have that. I like to have structure on some things.
Okay.
But I mean, I have lofty goals, and I had lofty timelines, early timelines I felt like was achievable if everything went well.
Yeah.
But everything don't go well all the time, right? And you face challenges that maybe setting things back, and you got to adapt and you got to accept that.
I find focusing on the process and enjoying the process and doing the task that you have to do that'll achieve you that end result, but without focusing on when, but just focusing on like, these are the tasks that I have to do.
Absolutely.
Is much better than like focusing on that future goal. And then you're more in the moment. You're like, oh, I'm winning right now. I'm winning today, because I'm taking care of the tasks that are going to lead me to that eventual place that I see myself in. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100% again, man. Because you know what? It's the small goals that we got to be grateful for, and feel that confidence from, and not focus on the long-term stuff, right? And I live that to this day, right? I'm grateful for each and every day.
Yeah.
I don't do too much too far out, because I don't know what the future holds anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to enjoy every damn day.
2020 has been.
2020 shows us, right? Yeah. Like, hey, you know what? You can't plan weddings. You can't plan anything far ahead because, and natural disasters and everything else happen, right? Like I said, I'm not saying I'm never planning anything.
For sure.
But at the same time, I'm focused on each day and what task is at hand, and then with smaller goals, because I know essentially that's going to lead me to those bigger goals, and I could reap the benefits at that point, when it comes due. But, and that's what we always try and focus on and encourage people too, is like, hey, you know what? Live today, because obviously, with the spinal cord injury, we know tomorrow's not guaranteed, and it may be different tomorrow. So focus on what you got today and then live that to the fullest.
Is there big risks, like health risks, that something could happen with the spinal cord injury?
No, not too much, to be honest with you.
Or anything like blood circulation?
Yeah, blood clots early on.
Okay.
That's a key thing is if you're kind of immobile early on.
Okay.
Blood clots are one thing that could happen. Pressure sores, of course. Different injury levels bring on different challenges.
Okay.
Like I said, there's paraplegics and quadriplegics. Quadriplegics are going to have all four extremities impaired. So that's usually C1 through C8.
Wow.
Which is going to be about the chest down.
Yeah.
But they're going to have limited arm and hand function and filling. And then paraplegics are from like T1 down to L5. Or actually the sacral too as well. So those are challenging things, right? Because every injury is different.
Yeah.
And everybody, so there's many different aspects of paralysis, and people don't realize this. And this is, like I said, not something we learn, right?
For sure.
And it's up to us, and myself included, to bring awareness to people of, kind of how paralysis works. But there's incomplete, which means people have function and sensation below their level of injury, which is very unique because that's a wide range of things that could happen. Some people could have bowel and bladder function. Some people could have movement in their lower extremities or even upper extremities. And quadriplegics could have movement in their lower extremities and not their upper extremities.
Okay.
So it's very, very wide range and variety of different things that could be impacted when you're incomplete. And there's incomplete paraplegics as well that have sensation on their bottom and have more, burning sensation feeling, like I have burning sensation. I don't, that's inside of me, my nerves. I don't have skin, sensation where I could feel hot and cold or pressure points and stuff like that, where, yeah, there's benefits to it. They may be able to protect their skin, but they still have to deal with being uncomfortable all day long too.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's challenging. And the spinal cord injuries, it's just such a unique thing that everything is different, and not one injury is ever the same.
Yeah. And so when did you transition out of the grocery industry?
So that was after my first surgery,
Okay.
my flap surgery in '09, '10, 2010 was pretty much when we kind of mutually separated, so to speak.
Okay.
It was my year off was up, and I took time off, and then I had a reoccurring issue.
Yes.
And then after that point, I just took time off work. I said, you know what, my health is number one. I got to find out what's going on, and I got to think future. Like I want to live a long time and live healthy a long time. I got to start now at 25 years old in 2010, right?
Yeah.
And figure things out. So I left there. We mutually separated in 2010. And then I went back to insurance and stuff like that. And then ended up having another surgery in 2012.
Gotcha.
So it was those 3 years were very tough, right? Like I was still active, but not able to live my life right because I had these health issues that I had unknown things of, until I had my second surgery in 2012. And, the doctors, I had two different surgeons. I had a plastic surgeon doing the skin part, but I also had a musculoskeletal cancer bone doctor.
Okay.
Because he wanted to look and see if there was any infection in my bone and what caused this. That's when they found the spur on my butt bone and was able to clean that off. And knock on wood, I haven't had any issues, in the last 8 years.
Good.
But again, too, it's something that I check daily.
For sure.
Every morning and evening or night before I go to bed, I always, get a mirror and check my skin all the way around my body because it could, like you said earlier, it could happen quick.
Yeah.
And once it does, and with our blood flow and everything else from a spinal cord injury, we just don't heal as fast.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot longer to heal these things. And if we can nip it in the butt as soon as possible, that's the best. Nip it in the butt. Pun intended, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a pain in the ass, right? But again, too, like, in 2012, then I was trying to figure things out. Was I going to go back? And I dabbled back into insurance slightly. And I was like, you know what? It's been 4 years since I got my licenses. It's kind of been up and down. I got clients and people like that. And it was a great industry. It was something that when I started it, I looked at it as it will always be there.
For sure.
Insurance is always going to be there. It's not going to be something that's going to be gone in a few years or whatnot.
Yep.
I liked about it was being an entrepreneur, making my own schedule. And if I wanted to hustle, 12, 15 hours a day and then have a 3-day weekend, like I could do these things. Yep. Right. And that was the freedom that I wanted. And that's always what I strived for since I was 13 and started my first business, really, of yard work. Me and my buddy Frank, we started because we wanted bike parts.
Yep.
So we started a yard service and we were making thousands of dollars throughout the summer doing yards.
That's
all
awesome.
all around our neighborhoods and stuff, weed eating and everything else from mowing lawns to raking up, cleaning stuff. And we made our money. And that's how my mindset's always been of, hustling and getting what I want and earning it,
And so did you have success with the insurance?
Yeah, I did. I mean, the insurance was good.
Okay.
There's good money to be made. It's good freedom and independence with your schedule and everything else. Like I said, doing car, auto insurance, fire, property insurance, and was just starting to get into life insurance, and that's where a lot of good money is to be made. And it's good. It's a good benefit for people, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I kind of learned too, like it's a salesman job.
Yep.
But also it's a service job, right? Like you need to make sure that these people and care for these people, that they're going to be protected right.
Covered properly.
Yeah. Because this was obviously after my injury. So I know things could change in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And maybe that's natural disaster. Maybe that's, loss of job. Maybe that's whatever, all these different things that go into it. But you know what? Just caring for people and doing the right thing. That was my goal, and trying to serve people. Insurance was good, but at the same time, there was still stuff that I was missing.
So you weren't being fulfilled.
No, not at all. I enjoyed it. The money was good at the time.
You
But I wasn't saying like I would love going to work every day.
You love the freedom, you love the money, but you're just missing that fulfillment piece.
Yeah, of course. I was definitely missing a purpose.
Okay.
And like I said, I felt like a salesman at times and this and that. and even family or friends that, hey, you know what? Hey, it's too much. Like this isn't a good policy for you. It costs too much. You got adequate insurance with where you're at. Stay there.
Yeah.
You know, and I was okay with being honest with people, and I wasn't trying to sell people on it. Just say, hey, you know what? You need to come with me, and that was okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't pleased with going to work and doing that all the time or thinking long term. Like I said, here I'm only 26, 7 years old at the time, and it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to do this? I can make good money, but am I going to be happy? And again, too, I've always mentored, at the rehab centers.
Okay.
So they contacted me maybe like 8 months after my injury.
Okay.
There was a younger gentleman there, and they were like, "Hey, you know what? I think you would be a good example to set for this other younger guy about my age." And I was driving and back to junior college at the time already, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, you know what? I can make time to do it."
For sure.
And again, too, I went in there and mentored in there, and then they, continued calling me to come in and encourage, empower, and just bring awareness to life after injury.
For sure.
And for me, I seen that a lot of people weren't, I guess, at my level of
mindset and just go and
go.
Yeah.
And that was tough for me, right? And that's what always has helped me mentoring.
Yes.
Because I know that the people do need that boost and that kick in the butt.
Yeah.
And let them know, like, hey, you know what? There's a lot more that you think you can do now that you're going to be able to do if you believe it and you want to work for it. For me, like I said, it came naturally. Another issue that goes into it was I was doing something I loved.
Yeah.
My mom's always raised me and my brother to say, hey, you know what? If something happens, you're doing something you loved.
Yep.
And that was something, I knew the risks of motocross. Mm-hmm. I've broken bones on BMX and motocross growing up. I knew that there's always a possibility of a severe injury or death even at that. We've lost friends in motocross or racing accidents as well. So I think that had a lot to do with me accepting it.
Yeah.
And being able to move past it really fast compared to others that are victims of something.
For sure.
I would say over half of our networks, injuries are victims, and that's gun violence or victims of, say drunk driving accidents.
So
or
just fluke, freak style accident.
Well, sometimes. I mean,
Okay.
sometimes people are just around the wrong people or doing the wrong thing.
Okay.
But it could be a life-changing experience that leads them down to a correct path. And it's crazy to think, but a lot of times people, tell us, maybe 2 years after or 5 years after or whatever the time frame is, but they come back and say, you know what, this, and they realize within themselves that this helped them and this happened for the better.
Yeah.
This made them a better person and this got them out of whatever things they were into or doing that they didn't feel was right. And it's unfortunate, of course, right? But it gave them purpose in life.
They say life's always happening for you.
Yeah.
Not against you, regardless of what that is and what hardship you may be experiencing, know?
I believe that solely, man. There's 4 P's that I focus on. That's
Okay.
One is perseverance, right? There's nothing's going to go smooth. You can have a game plan.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a wrench in it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to just not give up on that, right?
Yeah.
And persevere through whatever, adversity or overcome these challenges or even, situations that you may face or the people that you may face during that plan.
Yeah.
And persevere through that. The next one is purpose, right? And finding purpose within it.
Yep.
And if you're doing something with purpose, you're gonna want to continue. You're gonna feel fulfilled, like you said earlier. You're gonna have that gratitude and everything else that you're doing something, whatever it may be. If it's work or if it's sports or if it's fitness or whatever it may be, like you're gonna that there's a result that you're looking for.
Yep.
And you're gonna find that purpose. The other one is passion, right? Is being able to be passionate about what you're doing and thinking of. And then performance, right? And then it's how you are performing.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you doing everything in your power to perform whatever it may be to achieve these goals? And that's, like I said, I was an athlete all my life. I competed at high levels of racing, as well as, wheelchair basketball and hand cycle racing and stuff like that. And like all these different things. And that's where I look at performance as the number one. Am I doing everything to perform at the highest level? I may not win every time,
Yeah.
but did I give it my best shot? And that's how I live everything to life, man.
You leave nothing on the table. That way you can't go back after the fact and go, I should have, or could have, or wish I did.
I would never be able to, handle that, because I've never believed in shortcuts, man. And that part of that is just how I was raised with my parents and seeing what they persevered through and how they raised me and my brother. And just growing up in Vallejo in such a diverse area, and had, we weren't wealthy at any means or any of that, but we had a little bit more than some others,
Yep.
And a lot less than a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
But it brought us gratitude and thankfulness for what we did have.
Do you listen to Jim Rohn at all?
Yeah.
So Jim Rohn, he says there's two disciplines, either or two pains, right? The pain of discipline or the pain of regret.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a gentleman the other day. His dad's going through cancer, and his dad's, going, I have a good life, but I wish I would have taken a little bit more risk. I wish I would have experienced a little bit more. I wish, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
And I feel like I'm thankful that I'm able to hear that and be like, okay, what am I, and just analyze it, right? Like hearing your story and going, man, okay, I need to be more grateful for what I have and utilize what I have to the fullest to experience this life that we have as a gift, right? Because it is a gift, and it shouldn't be, I wrote a post yesterday on Facebook where it's just, looking at my daughter, and I was like, man, I'm so grateful for the position that I'm at right now in life, where I'm able to spend time with her and give her, a roof over her head and enjoy what I do for work and pleasure. And working the grocery store, like, there was no way that was going to happen. And I used to tell Mario all the time, I'll never have kids working this job, because it was so all over the place, And so just being grateful, and then just really living in the moment and pursuing happiness. What makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled? And 2020 has shown us that it's not about hustling hard or grind. It's like, what's important, and focus on that. It's not about, I got to go make more money to put more money in my bank account. It's like, I got to go be happy, and I want to go travel. Like I was just talking to my wife. I'm like, let's get like a trailer, for not another trailer, but like a motorhome, trailer. And
absolutely.
And let's travel the country. Let's explore the country and, do things that create those experiences where we won't look back in the future and go, well, we should have done this. We should have done that. Like, I don't want to have any should haves, It's hard to do that, but I've been finding lately the real joy in the journey, like the process, like just falling in love with the process, falling in love with the hard work, falling in love with doing things that are tough, and then getting real fulfillment out of that. It's crazy. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. In 2020, obviously, here we are, 8 months in, and it's been up and down for a lot of people. A lot of people off work and a lot of challenging things, right?
Yeah.
But to look at it through the journey, like you're saying too, I think is empowering, right? Because it's like, hey, you know what? There's so many people, that are going through so many different things, right? Yeah. For me, like I said, I'm grateful and thankful for every day I get. Like you said earlier, is a gift, right? And I posted a thing, a couple different times over the years of like, today is called the present because it's a gift.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it, right? After you go through something so traumatic and such a big experience and life-changing experience like I had at 17, it's like I always have taken every day with gratitude. And I try and take nothing for granted.
Yeah.
And that goes with just, hey, you know what? I look at things with 2020 and look at the positives.
Yeah.
I get to spend more time with family.
Yeah.
I've gotten to do so many different things with family that I probably wouldn't have been able to do if I was focused on work and organization and everything else, right? So I look at some of the positives, and that's just me. I'm an optimistic guy, and I hate to be around negative energy.
Right.
And I like to just focus on the now, the present, and if there is a challenge or something going on throughout the process, how do we overcome that? What's the solution to it?
Yep.
And move past it. I don't dwell on things at all. And you have to just keep going. And because once you dwell on it, then it's gonna spiral down to a lot of different things with it.
I do know for sure, and we just gotta get past it and just take one step at a time. It's like it's what the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, right?
Absolutely.
And so
and there may be back steps at the time, and
for
that
sure.
journey, right? You're gonna have to backpedal a couple times too, but you know what? You got to keep moving.
Just keep
if
moving.
it's forward or backwards, you got to keep moving. You stand still, like you said earlier, man. It's no good.
And did you, I throw out Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn. When did you start personal development?
I would probably say 2015 or 16, probably, when I really started focusing on mindset, personal development with myself. Because if I'm coming in contact and working with so many different individuals with so many on a spectrum of so many different injury levels and everything else that goes into it, from their housing situations and their insurance, everything that goes into what we do within my organization and the people I come in contact with, as far as kind of some of the other endeavors that I'm focusing on, with just people and humans in general, and helping and empowering people. I was like, hey, you know what? I need to focus more on myself, and find different things, and see what I can do, what I could get out of myself to be able to give back to others, to maximize that.
Do you remember the first thing that led you into it, or the first person, or first?
Yeah, Frank, my buddy Frank, who obviously I started my business with. He's about a year younger than me. We grew up like best friends, riding BMX all our lives, and racing motorcycles and doing everything together. All the way up our childhood. But he had kind of shifted me to some things like that. Some speakers, some podcasts, some different things like that I hadn't really tapped into, and really started focusing, like you said, on that personal development myself and stuff like that as well.
Was that valuable the last 5 years?
Huge. Like I said, I always consider myself an optimistic, competitive dude.
Yeah.
But I've been able to tap into a lot of different aspects of that, and being able to translate that to different, things that I face, and one of it being my organization, 2 being just future endeavors and stuff like that, and 3 just being an awesome dude, like seriously, like, dude, just trying to be a good person, to other people, Everybody don't like me. I understand that, but I'm okay with that too. I'm who I am. You take it with what it is, and if it is an inspiration or motivation or whatever to somebody, like, hey, you know what, I'm happy that I could live my life and be able to impact people that may not even know me.
Yeah. And so in starting your business in 2015, how'd you venture into that, and how'd that come about?
So this was tough, right? Because like in 2013 or 15, I was figuring a lot of different things out, right?
Okay.
And part of it, like, I kind of wish I did start the personal development at that point.
Yeah.
But that was all part of the journey, right? I had to figure things out, right? I know I wasn't working retail at all anymore.
Yep.
I wasn't going to do insurance, like I needed to find that purpose and that passion. So during those 2 years, 13 to 15, after my second surgery and 3 months of bed rest.
Yes.
So people complain about being locked inside of their home for a while and stuff like that with this pandemic and everything else. I've done,
it can be a lot worse.
3 stays in bed, pretty much bed rest. So, it's not much that's going to impact me or ruin my mindset. But so during that time, I really focused on the mentoring side of things.
Okay.
And connecting with the community.
Okay.
The disabled community. I feel like I was connected in some spots of it, and mentoring the rehab and this and that. But I was so focused on my own career, purchasing a house and everything else and all these different things, in those, years of my 20s.
Yeah.
Because I had goals. Like I said, man, I had a lot of different lofty goals that, I felt were achievable.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I didn't take my health into account because it was something that I wasn't really aware of.
It was on the back burner to the goal.
Yeah,
Sure.
because you know what? My mindset all my life had been hustle and just work and go and on the go and focusing on these different goals. And then, even after my injury, that's how it was until I got knocked down, right?
Yep.
And it kind of brought perspective of, hey, you know what? I need to listen to my body. I need to take care of my body 100%.
Yeah.
Because if I'm healthy, I'm able to do everything I want to do.
For sure.
But if I'm not, and if I'm a little limited, it's going to impact how I perform.
Big time.
And again, too, like I said, it's performance is a key thing of what I focus on. And a lot of that goes into the journey of taking care of your body, what you're eating, how you're eating, everything else.
Yeah.
So, it led up to in 2014, 15, well, really after my second surgery.
Yeah.
I had met a gentleman in a rehab right before my surgery.
Okay.
Marcus. And he didn't have the insurance to get a manual wheelchair. Okay. I had 2 extras. I had just gotten my new one before my surgery. So I had not a brand new one, but a slightly
nice
used nice one.
Yeah.
That may have worked. So this was end of 2012, beginning of 2013. I said, hey, you know what? When you get out of the rehab, get a hold of me. And then you could come over and we could try and get you in this chair, right? Because I knew, hey, you know what? It's going to boost him big time if he has this from the beginning.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of 2013, right? And this is kind of really where it all started. Okay. But it still taps back into when I graduated, right?
For sure.
And being able to have mobility, if I would have had that, how that would have been different and how I would have looked back on that. So Marcus comes over, and unfortunately the chair just didn't fit him properly. He was, bigger than I am. I'm 6 foot. He's about 6'3", and a little, he's older than me and a little, more mature and bodied. So it just didn't fit. And for me, I'm bed rest at the time. Like I can't do nothing. I'm laying in bed. My dad's there, and he's there. And we're trying to get him to see if it will work. Just wasn't working. It was heartbreaking to say like, hey, you know what, that's not going to work.
Okay.
Because I know the excitement he had leading up to it of, you know what, this is going to give me that independence and mobility that I love and I need, it didn't work. So at that point I was like, okay, you know what, it got my mind going, for quite a few years, 2 years at the time. Like, okay, am I going to create products? Am I going to start a business and develop products for wheelchair users and disabled community? And then I was like, okay, so what's the process of starting businesses and this and that? And then I started looking into, nonprofit side of things.
Yes.
And then I was like, okay, well, maybe that's a route. Maybe I do a hybrid. Maybe I do them both, and have a nonprofit side and a for-profit side.
Yep.
And then I talked to some good close friends that are, I consider business mentors or so, that have a lot of knowledge, a lot more knowledge than I did, at 30 years old. And it was like, hey, you know what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I knew what my goals were. I wanted to help people, with spinal cord injuries. I knew I have a passion for it and a purpose for it and a lot of knowledge and education with it. How am I going to get that across? How am I going to do that?
And how are you going to support yourself doing it as well?
Correct. Yeah, of course. Make this a career, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to just do something for fun. I want to make it to where it's long lasting, scalable, sustainable, and being able to, live off of that, as well as being able to help hundreds and thousands of people.
Yep.
So, talking with the business mentors and whatnot, and they were like, hey, you know what? I think the best path would be go nonprofit route. Create your network, have the following, create the support within communities, and bring awareness to what spinal cord injuries are and what you're doing to help and mentor them.
Yeah.
And then if at that point, when there's somewhere down the road and you still have these products that you would like to create, then maybe you do. But you know what? You have the following who has the trust and the belief in what you're doing to, obviously purchase the products, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's still maybe on the back burner. That's not even my focus to this day. That was at that time. That's where it was in 2015. And then I went through the process at the beginning of 2015 to be incorporated and go through the application process for the 501c3 charity. And August 26th, which is a couple of days away, would be 5 years since we got granted our charity status. So 5 years is good. I mean, that's a good thing. Any small business or charity doesn't last much past 3 years.
Okay.
So 3 years is usually the limit for, those if they're going to make or break. And, here we are 5 years later, and we're almost to the point where I'm going to draw somewhat of a salary and income from the organization. Everything we've raised to this point have been directly put back into programs for the Share a Chair program, the events that we host, and everything else from our fundraising efforts and everything else. We're really focusing on grants now. We've gotten some good grants recently, for the Share a Chair program, but also now with COVID-19, we just got granted $15,000 for financial relief for COVID-19.
Okay.
So we're doing two different grants. We're doing one grant for a $250 gift card for spinal cord injury survivors within the 9 Bay Area counties, Sacramento and Yolo County. So those 11 counties, if you're a spinal cord injury, they could apply and they get just $250. We felt like that was a good enough chunk of change, so to speak, to make a difference.
Yep.
Maybe groceries for the month, pay some phone bills or whatever,
Just
medical
help.
supplies, any kind of help right now,
For
right?
sure.
So we're doing 75 total grants. There'll be 50 of those, $250 financial relief. And then what we wanted to do, because active is a big part of our organization and our mission, right? We want people to be active. That doesn't mean playing sports. That doesn't mean, active is different for everybody.
For
it
sure.
could be, hey, you know what? I'm going to be active enough to go back to school, go back to work. I want to focus on my health and my fitness.
Yep.
I'm going to play sports, or all of the above, like myself.
Yep.
So active is key for us. So what we wanted to do is, so we started we do 25 grants for $100 worth of like an at-home starter exercise equipment grant.
So basically you guys you're giving the money to people. You're granting the money to them, or how does that work?
Yeah. So what it is, so we applied for the grant with the Craig H. Nielsen Foundation.
Okay.
We got the $15,000 from them. Now we created a grant process, and we're going to distribute that money to our network.
Gotcha.
So there'll be essentially $15,000 in grant money or equipment going out to 75 different applicants.
Nice. Okay.
Which 2 weeks in, and we're at 75% capacity done.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So hopefully, I know there's a need for it, and I want people to take advantage of it. So again, too, grants are a part of it. Fundraising aspects of it, donations and stuff like that is very, very critical in what we're doing and building. And again, 5 years, we're pretty happy where we're at.
And how many people are running you and Frank's?
No, Frank's not part of the network. He's just a good friend of mine, a business mentor, and kind of guy I bounce ideas off of. He runs his own business as well. He's an entrepreneur as well, man. Like I said, so essentially, within our neighborhood, we probably have half of the kids that grew up in my neighborhood are entrepreneurs. Okay. Real estate agent, flooring company, hairdresser, stuff like that, right? And myself as an entrepreneur running an organization. So it's just something that was kind of bred in our network and just kind of part of our DNA of how we were raised and stuff like that, and how we always earned everything we did, right? And so again, the organization is, myself as a founder, CEO. We have a board. We have a good lump sum of volunteers. My girlfriend Jessica helps out a lot, doing a lot of the admin work lately, helping me, and just a lot of different hands in the thing, all volunteer work currently.
That's awesome. And what's your future? Like, what would be your goal with that?
Yeah, essentially, like I said, make it sustainable for myself, as well as being able to hire some others, preferably with disabilities or spinal cord injuries at that, give them their job, maybe their opening job into kind of a back to work thing, and get them comfortable and on a routine to be able to go back to work, and, maybe, support and help them achieve maybe going back to school, maybe transitioning into another job or something like that, or going back to work where they were working. Oftentimes that's not achievable.
Yeah.
We've had others that are, truck drivers. Unfortunately, that's just not something that you're going to transition back into a truck driving.
Yeah.
Maybe you could work for that company still in, a different role.
Dispatch or something.
Or maybe, you go back to school and you find something you're passionate and purpose, is for. So essentially, it's all volunteer based currently. I would love to have employees. I would love to potentially have a facility that's open for spinal cord injuries to come to, preferably somewhat centrally located within our network of, San Jose to Sacramento area. So Vallejo's pretty much right in the middle.
Okay.
Not saying that's exactly where it would be, but I would like to be
close to home. I mean, that's your home.
Yeah, for sure. But also,
give back to the community.
Okay with Bay Area travel.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want it too far for people, and it's but essentially just a location for people to come. Our goal is to, like I said, create opportunities for people to be active. So 2 years ago, we created adaptive rowing in a whaleboat. It's something that came about. I was on as a beneficiary for an event of Vallejo Waterfront Weekend. It was approached to me, hey, you know what? You want to row this boat? And I'm like, okay, yeah, damn right, I want to try it. Like I'm up for trying anything.
Yep.
How are we gonna do it?
Yeah, for sure.
Like how's this work? So I checked it out, and it's 8-person rowing, side by side, single oar.
Okay.
On a bench, and they sit on the bench with a cushion. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I don't have core, so I'm not able to do this. How are we gonna do this? Me and my dad and a couple others just, hey, what are some ideas? What are we going to do? So we took some old lightweight manual wheelchairs that we had from our organization that we weren't going to be using anymore. We fabricated some bracketing and some things in there to mount it into this boat, and that's how it started.
Okay.
So I kind of went out there, never had really rowed. I've kayaked and some other things like this, but this is a lot different as a single-sided wood oar.
Yes.
Starboard and port side, right? And learning all this terminology and everything else. So it was interesting, and the main goal was just to showcase it for the Waterfront Weekend in 2018. Last year, it transpired really quick. Other people, I posted some videos, other people within our network, like, how do I do this? I want to get on the water. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Great workout. You could be with family. You could be with significant others. You could be around kids, whatever else, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is an awesome little thing. And we do it at the Vallejo Mare Island Straits, and it's awesome. So
Can you swim?
I can swim decent.
Okay. So it's not like you're going to drown if you fall over.
No, but the thing is, these are lifeboats that were used by the Navy. So they're 2,400-pound boats.
So they're big. You're not
really big.
Over. Okay.
If you're going to get hit by a boat, if you're going to tip over.
Gotcha.
And you're going to have a lot more issues than anything else that you could think of if you got hit by a boat and flipped this boat.
If you're tipped over, there's bigger issues going on.
Yeah, exactly. But again, too, obviously safety is always key, of course.
For sure.
So we don't wear vests, but there are vests on there. Everybody within SMIRA, which is Straits of Mare Island Rowing Association, they know, they're educated with us. The coxswains are all up top steering for us. They're all trained and know about who's adaptive.
Yep.
Who's going to need assistance and what assistance they're going to need, how it's going to work. As well as the rowers that are rowing with us. We always educate them. Hey, you know what? I'm paralyzed. If something were to happen, you got to help me first.
Yep.
And that's just how it works. Never had an issue since, right? So
Yeah.
we've been doing this almost 2 years now. Last year, I actually rowed with the co-ed team and competed against able-bodied people. Like I said, I'm an athlete. I love to compete. I've always competed, after my injury with others with injuries and disabilities, right?
Yep.
This was something I'm competing against able-bodied people. It brought on such a
Different level.
drive and competitiveness within me. Because to be honest with you, rowing is a lot of lower body and full body.
Yeah.
I have little less than half a body and all upper body.
Because they're using their legs, right?
A lot of push off with their legs,
Big
rocking
time,
back and
yeah.
forth, getting full range back with the oar. A lot of things. I'm at a huge disadvantage. But for me, it was like, hey, you know what? How can I be able to do this to hold my own?
Yeah.
We competed last season. Last year we did some amazing races. Raced around Coast Guard Island. We raced we rode out to Alcatraz, and we raced from Alcatraz Island all the way to Aquatic Park in San Francisco, which is like a 25-minute intense race with good waves, everything. And we got third. That's third out of 6 or 7 boats. So that was empowering, and it was
Big
good.
time.
And then what we did last year, we did an adaptive class at the waterfront weekend.
Okay.
And we had a couple others out there as well, with spinal cord injuries rowing, and part of our network out there rowing as well, including my mom, which is amazing at 60 years old out there rowing and kicking butt. But again, that just shows you where I get some stuff from, and just part of us.
I love it, man. So I appreciate you telling your story, brother. I mean, it's a great story. And how can people help out if they want to help out? Like, do you guys take donations, or what is the?
Yeah, so as we are a 501c3 charity with the state of California, we do accept donations, tax deductible donations. So essentially, you could go to our website, www.seiactivenetwork.org. You can check out our website and see what we're doing, as well as our social media at SEI Active Network, for social media as Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, cool. Do you post a lot on there?
Not as much as I should, but again, it's kind of a skeleton crew and volunteers.
Sure.
It's tough. So essentially, that would be our main goal, is to be able to get more stuff out on media, because it's not just our area that is going to be able to benefit from it, but it's the nation and whatnot as well.
Well, just like any business, awareness is everything.
Yeah.
Knowing what you do and what you're providing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And like I said, it's something that we could focus more on, and it would help, But again, too, it's, we do grants, we do fundraising events, throughout the year. Obviously, 2020 has been canceled, so we've lost out on 2 huge fundraisers.
Let me finish out. I got 2 questions for you. So, first question, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self knowing what you know now?
Yeah, that's tough. I would say probably health is wealth. Focus on my health.
Okay.
Because that was one thing that was a big challenge for me for my early 20s, right? Like I had a 3.5 year period where I battled different things, right?
Yeah.
And mentally that was tough. But again, too, it was part of my journey. So I respect it and I accept it now. But if I were to look back, it would be, hey, you know what? You need to focus on your health 100%.
And you said that you use that story to basically scare people straight into focusing on their health. So you give that advice now. And so that's
absolutely.
Awesome.
And the skin health is one, and taking care of your organs, your body. But 2 is nutrition. Nutrition goes a long way. I went dairy-free, pretty strictly dairy-free, about 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
And it made a big difference in my body, how everything reacts. I did some blood work that showed that I was, semi-reactive to some of these, dairy products and other products that I eliminated from my diet. And since then, it's my focus is better. I don't have, bloating or stomach issues. I don't have a lot of skin breakdown from, acne and everything else, and a lot of different things that come from inflammation from these foods that you put in your body.
Okay, good to know. I need to look into that for myself.
It's all good, man. Everybody's different. And like I said, you know what? It's like you said earlier, discipline, man. Everything comes back to discipline. And no matter what the journey is, it's having discipline to continue.
It's always a work in progress.
Absolutely. Hey, that's okay, though. You got to learn from your mistakes or whatever happened in the past, and then you change, you adapt.
Exactly. I love it. And so my last question is 10 years out from now, Troy at 45, what advice is he giving you now that you should follow?
Empower more people. I'm thinking about a podcast, maybe more public speaking.
Okay.
I need to touch more people.
Okay.
My organization, SEI Active Network, is a niche area,
Mm-hmm.
very well needed, very much underserved.
Yeah.
I understand that. But I think in general, I think my purpose and my passion is just empowering people. And I think that's where I need to, that's what my goal is in the next few years too, as far as the organization, but also being able to help people in mass, so.
I read a book, The One Thing. Have you read that?
I have not.
Gary Keller, The One Thing. And
okay.
It talks about focusing on like, what is the one thing that'll drive the needle the furthest, right? And for him, he's in real estate. This isn't a real estate book, but he was in real estate, and his biggest thing was to write a book about how to successfully do real estate, and that drove the needle. And I think you hit the nail on the head, because from the outside looking in, it's always easier to give other people advice, not, versus yourself. And looking at you and seeing you on social media and the positivity and everything, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Like, your one thing is, how can I connect and reach more people, share my story, and then the organization will grow behind that, right?
Yeah.
You'll figure out all the other pieces as you focus on your one thing that moves the needle the most, is sharing your story, sharing your journey, and just helping other people, empowering other people, and then everything else behind you just manifest, right? And you get people, now you're able to hire people to do, the grant work and the admin work. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I focus on this and everything else is elevated. So,
I mean, tremendously, man.
Yeah.
I've noticed the last 2 years has really skyrocketed. Like I said, I started in 2015. I competed in basketball and stuff in 2016, 17. I noticed that took a lot away from my organization and my goals of that. Yeah, it was a personal endeavor, and I appreciate every minute of it. The people I met through that, that journey, the friends and the teammates that I had, I've learned a lot from that. But at the same time, it took away from my kind of big goal and my purpose.
Yeah.
And then now, like you said, just in the last 2 years of being able to expand and reach more people, share my story as much as possible, encourage and empower people and invigorate people to overcome whatever challenges they may face, and just be perspective to life.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what I do, is just bring perspective to life. Like I said, some people don't like me. People say I'm too positive.
Shut up.
Swear, man. I get that often. It's like, hey, man, how do you stay so positive? How are you, it's like, hey, you know what? This is my whole upbringing. Everything that goes into, from when I remember as a kid through, the concussions and everything else and all these other different adversity moments and challenges that I've faced and my family's faced. Like, that's what brought me to where I am and who I am. And if you don't like me, that's all good, man.
It's a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happiness, positivity is a choice, and there's days that I'm sure you have that it's really difficult, and those days you stay away from people. But for the most part, like me, I'm always happy and I'm always like excited and positive, and it's a choice, right? Like, I could choose to be negative and go with what, the energy of negativity, but I'm like, nah, I don't like that vibe.
Absolutely. It all comes down to being a choice.
Yeah.
We all have a choice, and there's a one path here and a one path here, and it depends on which way you want to go.
Yep.
With almost anything and every choice we have in life, including our mindset.
Damn. Well, Troy, I appreciate you sharing your story and coming on the podcast. And it was because you sharing your story and that positivity that I'm like, I need this dude on my show. So
absolutely. And I appreciate it, man. And this amazing setup. And like I said, I've been following you since you started this journey with the Real Journey podcast and setting up everything. And it's mind blowing to actually be here, man. And like I said, it's been a long time coming. I've been excited to do this, man.
Right on, bro. I can't wait to see what you make of your organization.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt.
Right on, bro.